Welcome into the Bunker Information Center. And yes, another name change for all the people who are new here. Um, I thought that the bunker was just a little bit too short, so I wanted to make this something where people have an opportunity to sort of understand, what we're doing here, what we're trying to accomplish with this, and really what we're trying to accomplish is just trying to get information out there to people. So my goal is just to, over the next 5 years, really try to build this and try to make it more consistent. And it's basically the combination of financial markets, economic analysis, geopolitics, just to give everyone, regardless of where you live, an opportunity to front run the retail public, because I think that now more than ever, it's important to understand the truth. It's important to understand what's happening in the world. And so, I want to try to create a community around that where people can come for unbiased and objective information, to help people with their financial situation. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, so none of what I say is any recommendations to do something or to buy something, whether that be a security or not. So, in general, I want to try to help people, and that's why I'm here. So, what I wanted to cover today is a few different things. It might be a couple video type of day, but Russia has now taken Ukraine, essentially. Ukraine doesn't really have a defense for this. NATO was seemingly sort of unprepared for the scale to which Putin has gone through with this. And so Russia has now destroyed over 70 military targets, including 11 airfields in Ukraine. They're already attacking and taking over Kiev. They have taken Chernobyl, which is a famous nuclear plant. Putin's strategy basically is to take Ukraine as they posed a security risk to Russia, so that people understand. Ukraine was surrounding Russia along with these other countries that were sort of along the border of Russia, and it actually got to a point where there was part of Ukraine was actually east of Moscow. And so, Putin sort of just felt like, okay, we're a little bit too close to, and I can show you guys on here what I'm talking about. If I can just share my screen here, I can show you the map, because I think it's important to understand, where we're coming from, and understand sort of get into the weeds of this. So as you can see, Moscow, to the east of Moscow, we have Ukraine. Ukraine is still, that little area there. And so, and Belarus, you can see these countries here, like if you do a C formation here, those are the countries that are in NATO. So, with Ukraine, potentially applying for NATO and NATO giving them assistance with weapons and things like that. There was, Putin sort of strategically wants to make sure that, people aren't getting too close to Moscow, because this whole area here essentially was part of Russia before. He's saying that, when they did split up the Soviet Union, that Ukraine was always sort of supposed to be still part of Russia. And you also have the Black Sea here, which is important in terms of geopolitics and geostrategy, connecting to Turkey, and then connecting over to Africa in that area. So a lot of border type of things that are going on. But Putin, he has the oil, he has the wheat, he has the commodities, including neon gas, which we haven't talked about before. but the world needs neon gas to create semiconductors. So there's a little bit of a conspiracy possibly forming here with China, who is now possibly taking over Taiwan. So that's our next point here. 9 reported Chinese Air Force planes were reported in the Taiwan defense zone. So this is a zone that would usually be off limits to China on Chinese Air Force teams. And so this is concerning. And China has basically said that Taiwan has always been a part of China, sort of the same exact thing that Putin is saying regarding Ukraine. And so Putin's claim is that Ukraine is also part of Russia. And so, but at the same time, we have China and Russia both doing this possibly, right? China hasn't officially done this, and I don't think that they necessarily will at the moment, but they are beginning to sort of just kind of piece together something. And so they announced that we are more than happy to buy Russia's wheat. This was February 8th. Bear in mind, they already have more than half of the world's stocks, and they are now reinforcing their own food security by cozying up to Russia. And so, China has been big into hoarding commodities. They've been hoarding gold, and Russia has also been hoarding gold. And so that's one of the reasons why I believe it's important to own gold, especially if you have dollars in the bank that are saved. If we sort of see China and Russia in this little bit of an alliance, and the three superpowers of the world are really Russia, China, and then the U.S. And so everyone else is sort of just playing within that framework. And with China and Russia not a part of NATO, obviously, and both having sanctions, both sort of being communist in nature, and both being very good strategists in terms of looking ahead, 5 to 10 years, 15 years into the future, and understanding what's coming. The Chinese, they understand the cycles. Russia understands the cycles as well. They play the long-term game, which is the opposite of what they've conditioned us here in the United States. We see the move today in gold, where gold goes from 1975 to 1875. All the people are freaking out, including myself. But in reality, that is just more opportunity to accumulate, because we know that 2 of the 3 world superpowers have been accumulating gold over the past so many years. So just to touch on that wheat component again, because the U.S. is sanctioning Russia for what's going on right now. And so Russia is one of the world's biggest wheat producers. They're also one of the world's biggest oil producers. And they've been shut out of China in terms of their wheat for a long time, about concern over fungus and other contamination. So the 2 governments, like I said, on February 8th, they met during the Olympics, and we saw Putin at the Olympics. And so now they have a deal for them to buy wheat and oil. They agreed on both of those things. So this is something where I believe that it was sort of building up already. So Putin 100% double checked with Xi in terms of with Xi Jinping in terms of, if I go and do this, if I go into war right now and go into battle, I know I'm going to be sanctioned. So what can I do to strategically make sure that my economy stays afloat and jobs don't, fall to the wayside? That would be, basically to make these deals. And so ultimately the 2 superpowers are in cahoots. And so if there's 3 poker players at the table and you don't know who the sucker is, usually it's yourself. So now we also see Taiwan Semiconductor, which I thought was interesting. We saw them sort of they've been attempting to increase their cybersecurity related to China stealing information from them. And we've also seen them losing talent to China, which means possible secrets that they knew, the people who worked at Taiwan Semiconductor, because that is a high technology thing. And what I mentioned earlier with the neon gas in Russia, what if China has already thought, okay, we take Taiwan, we take over the main supplier of chips in the world, and then we get the neon gas from Russia. So if China and Russia combining together, they're seeing the weakness here in the U.S. Them combining together really gives them, free reign on basically anything that they want to do. They have all the resources and commodities. I mean, China sort of has the population, I guess, but their population is sort of going lower. So that's why they're actually paying people to have more kids now. Because it's ruining their economy. But I think them combining, I think China needs Russia a lot because they need these different commodities. They don't really produce as many of their own commodities as some of these other places. They obviously produce gold, but they don't produce other things. And another thing is China has always wanted to get off of the SWIFT system of the United States. They have created their own digital currency, which is a digital yuan. And so we have to be concerned that there's a possibility that they could sort of team up with Russia, North Korea, Iran, possibly Iraq, Afghanistan, to sort of form their own alliance here against NATO, Saudi Arabia, Japan, and things like that. So, at that point, there's a real concern if they take over Taiwan that this alliance becomes a lot stronger against the US. And today, we also had the United States threatening cyber attacks towards Russia. So 2 US intelligence officials, 1 Western intelligence official, and another person briefed on the matter, say no financial decisions have been made, but they say US intelligence and military cyber warriors are proposing the use of American cyber weapons on a scale never before contemplated. Among the options, disrupting internet connectivity across Russia, shutting off electric power, and tampering with railroad switches to hamper Russia's ability to resupply its forces, 3 of the sources said. So, some experts say the risk of escalation is high in this case. So the last thing we want to see is a cyber tit for tat between the US and Russia to see who can destroy one another's critical infrastructure. I think it is horribly escalatory, can have devastating impacts on our security, and could drag us into a war. So in my opinion, I really hope that we do not cyber attack them, but just the fact that we are even thinking of it means that there is definitely going to be some type of probably cyber attacks towards the US at some point. This would be an even more of an excuse for the powers that be to take more control over our freedoms. There's a chance that a video like this would get taken down based on them sort of using the emergency of a cyber attack to be like, okay, we only want people who are speaking standard narratives about everything. And so if you haven't yet, please follow me on Odyssey as well as Rumble. And I have a Telegram channel as well. I only have like a couple subscribers to each of those, maybe not even that. But again, I think that it's important to be able to have unbiased news that gets out there, and so people can share their opinions. Everything I say on here is my opinion. It's for entertainment purposes. It's not financial advice. And so, again, I think that the poker analogy is really where I want to leave this, and that's, you always want to team up with one of the 3 superpowers, and in the past, we have seen the teaming up of 2 out of the 3. And usually the US is the one teaming up, but now there's real question. There's obviously, I think China possibly has played the US because they've kind of infiltrated our politics a little bit. They've infiltrated a lot of things that I can't speak of, but at this time, but the point is, the real point is, how do you protect yourself, I guess, from all of this? And what I would say is just owning physical wealth, physical storable goods, storable foods, Obviously, you want physical metal, you want cash, like physical cash in your hand. You don't want to have your money in the banks during a possible cyber attack. We don't know when it will happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 3 months. I don't think it will happen. I actually don't think it will happen as soon as some people think. So I think it's kind of this thing where war can last up to, years. War can last years. So you have to understand that, Russia's playing the long game here. But I do truly hope that we can kind of come to a compromise with them in some way. I don't, it's always sad to see people losing their lives over sort of like strategic diplomacy and things like that. So we really don't want to see that. But it is happening in Ukraine now. There is this ramp up, and so I just want to say, if anyone's watching this from Ukraine or from a European country that's surrounding those, we're here in the U.S. We're with you. We stand for freedom. We stand for the truth, and so hopefully the truth will be revealed, and we're all in this together at the end of the day. So as people of the world, really, and I think that we all have the equal ability to love one another and do things out of love. For me, I make this podcast out of love for other people. I want other people to get unbiased and unobjective information. And so hopefully you guys got something out of the video, and have a safe and um, peaceful day.